Hey everyone, what's going on? I'm in the process of getting ready to upload a video that I made last night where I am talking about the relationship to these last two videos that I have up on YouTube. And, last week I talked all about this number 219 and a whole bunch of stuff and how I had these synchronicities that were leading me to believe there was something important to a theme with horses. And, of course, then I went on this trip to Sioux Falls and the first thing that I saw on TV on the date 219, it just so happened to be, I turned on the TV and we were going to turn on SpongeBob, but it was a commercial. And it just so happened to be a commercial with this giant Trojan horse. And I talked about a bunch of other things. I had synchronicity with a girl at work who loves horses. And I had synchronicity with this movie called St. Vincent that I was supposed to watch for whatever reason. And I watched the movie, and of course, uh, St. Vincent was about how a big part of the movie is how he takes this kid to the horse track, right? And horse racing. And then on 221 yesterday, we got the story about the Kentucky Derby winner, Medina Spirit, and how Medina Spirit, uh, the win got nullified and the trainer got suspended, right? And I talked about all this in the other video, so I'm not going to talk about it, but I just want to point out there is something crazy going on with a horse theme, because last night after I started making that video, I I had to stop and I finished it earlier tonight, but because my computer was the data was full and I had to delete some stuff, and then it was like 2 in the morning, and I was like, I'm just gonna go lay in bed and try to fall asleep because I got to work in the morning. And anyway, I was laying in bed and I went to Netflix and I saw this movie called He's All That. And a long time ago I watched the movie She's All That and so on, and I was just like, I don't know, just turned on the movie and I was almost asleep, and then all of a sudden I heard the girl say, "He loves horses." And I was like, "What?" And I stopped and I looked, and it just so happened to be at, if my picture will load here, it just so happened to be at 2:22 in the morning. If you can see it, it's not going to load, but it was at 2:22 a.m. on 222, and you know, that's right when she says he loves horses. And if you go and watch this movie, He's All That, like it's just like She's All That, where except it's opposite, where it's the guy who's like the nerd and then they want to make him popular or whatever. But this kid, he really loves horses in the film. And I'm like, what are the odds? This random movie that I click on, and the guy like loves horses. Even at the very end of the movie, he's like riding a horse, and it has a lot to do with horses. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And anyway, I later realized that the main character, the kid who loves horses, his name is Cameron. And this really stuck out to me because I've recently had synchronicity with the word Cameron and also the country Cameroon. And what's even funnier is I finished watching this movie tonight, and at the very end where this kid is going to be he's going to enter the prom king stuff or whatever, he finds out that they messed up his name, and they actually messed his name up and call him Cameroon instead of Cameroon, right? Cameroon and Cameroon. And if you go back to a couple weeks ago on January 26th, I even blogged about how I had synchronicity with Cameroon because whatever, my girlfriend had wrecked her car and I had to go, it was like high centered on this pole, so we had to go cut the pole and whatever and to get her out. But on the way there, I got a comment on my Tiger King video from somebody named Mark Cameroon. And then I went to CNN and there was a story about a stampede at the African soccer game in Cameroon. And I was like, Mark Cameroon? Now there's a story about Cameroon. And then later that night, I started watching this TV show called The Outer Banks because some girl at work told me to watch it. And it kind of sounded like a newer Goonies. So I was like, all right. And I start watching it. And then a big thing is that there's this girl named Sarah Cameron. And I was like, it's not the same. But, Cameron and Cameroon, it reminds me a lot of the same thing. And then I looked into that comment and I noticed it was all connected to my girlfriend and I later noticed some connections to Zach and whatever, so I was like, I wonder when Zach's going to release his new book, and I wondered if it was already on Patreon and I just hadn't seen it. And I went to his Patreon to see if he had the file, like the PDF of that book. And of course, the first thing that I see is a comment by somebody named Cameron. And I was like, what is going on? There's something important to Cameroon. Then a few days later, we got the Royal Rumble. And what was interesting with the Royal Rumble, for one, it was in St. Louis, where the Rams used to play. Then the Rams go on to win the Super Bowl. But the winners of the Royal Rumble were Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar. And they're both known for fighting in the UFC. And I looked up the UFC fight. The most recent UFC fight before that was UFC 270. And the winner of the main event just so happens to be this guy, Francis, well, however you say his name. And of course, he's from Cameroon. Also notice his name in gematria equals 222, right? Like 222. And, now I'm having this synchronicity again with Cameron and Cameroon on the date 222 at 2:22 in the morning. And he won his fight on the 22nd day of 22 even. And, I later went on and I talked about the president of Cameroon and how he was born on 2/13, the day of the Super Bowl. And the word earthquake equals 2/13, Los Angeles 2/13. And Ronda Rousey for years has been linked up to this earthquake narrative that I've talked about in regards to the Royal Rumble. Think about Royal Rumble, earthquake, royal family. There's definitely an interesting narrative with Ronda Rousey, earthquakes, and it had a lot to do with Philadelphia. I don't want to get really into it too far, but it was linked up to Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan, and Roddy Piper being on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And, I have other videos on it. I'm not going to go on with this whole narrative, but I later, that same day, when I had all these other ones, I saw this article about Joel Embiid, and I didn't realize he was from Cameroon, but it said it in the deal. And I was like, he's from Philadelphia, or he plays in Philadelphia, and he's from Cameroon. And I don't even know. I went on and talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but in relation to that being important to earthquakes, it is interesting because, so this kid's name's Cameron, and they mess up his name when he's running for king, Royal Rumble King, and so on, but they mess his name up as Cameroon, and the mascot at the school just so happens to be the earthquake, right? So how interesting is that, earthquake? I don't know, there is a Mount Cameroon, and the word volcano, it's a volcano, and volcano also equals 213. So it's just, there's something interesting about that, and how it's linked up to Philadelphia. When I went on my trip to Sioux Falls that I talked about in the other video, I discovered there's this big narrative again with the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 52 that was all linked up to the stock market crash, a bridge collapse theme, and also an earthquake theme. And it was linked up to Philadelphia. And remember, before Philadelphia won the Super Bowl that year, there was the 4.1 earthquake that was felt in Philadelphia. And then Philadelphia went on to win the Super Bowl with 41 points. And James Harden just got traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, and his birthday is August 26th, which is the same day as that Bridgewater shooting that was linked up to Roddy Piper and Ronda Rousey and the movie They Live. And Hulk Hogan who got his ribs broke against Earthquake on the Brother Love show. And Philadelphia's from the city of brotherly love. And he got his revenge in Philadelphia at the Spectrum. But I don't know. There's something important to that, because back then, too, I was talking about Michael Jordan a whole lot, and how Michael Jordan retired on the date 10/6. And if you look up Philadelphia, the capital of the country, Jordan, used to be called Philadelphia until the year 106 AD, and then it was destroyed by earthquakes. And I guess the reason I bring that up is if you watch this movie, the most popular guy that this guy hates and whatever, his name's Jordan in the film. So it just makes me wonder if there's something important to how that links together, But Anyway, if you go back, let's go back to this post right here. So when I had this synchronicity with the at 2:22 with horses and whatever, later in the blog post I talked about the song "Kiss Me," and I talked whatever. I'll just skip over this because I talked about it in the other video. But I later noticed that that song "Kiss Me," there's a version by the band New Found Glory, and then also in the movie She's All That, the main girl is Rachel Lee Cook, and she's also in a music video of the band New Found Glory. So, and New Found Glory was interesting because after Super Bowl 52 that the Eagles had won, we got the stock market dropping 666 points, I believe it was, the next day. And then we got the Stoneman Douglas shooting, right? And the band members from New Found Glory actually went to the Stoneman Douglas. They attended Stoneman Douglas. And I was following this big theme of Stand By Me, the film leading up to this. And I looked up New Found Glory and they had just released a new song, and the video was a spoof of the film Stand By Me. And of course at that Super Bowl they also had the one girl singing the Stand By Me song, and it was with that Budweiser commercial where they had something to do with water. And think about how I've been saying there's this water drowning narrative in relation to how the horse theme is linked up, because I think it's important to Neptune, who is the god of the water, the god of earthquakes, and the god of horses. And the date 2/22/22 was also really important in astrology to Neptune. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was at like 22 degrees Virgo, or I don't really understand all the astrology stuff, but it was a bunch of 22 stuff on this date. So, I think that's how it all relates. It all goes back to Neptune and Pluto. But moral of the story is, I was like, there's got to be something going on with this. And that Stand By Me narrative, it had a lot to do with Wendy Williams. And because Wendy Williams was dressed up like the Statue of Liberty on Halloween that year, and we got like an attack in New York that same day, but she had collapsed and she was dressed like the Statue of Liberty. And the main guest on her show was Jerry O'Connell, who was one of the he was the fat kid in the movie Stand By Me. And this was interesting because we had recently got a story about Corey Feldman and the child pornography or whatever, or child pedophilia. And he was also in the film Stand By Me. And River Phoenix, he was in the film Stand By Me, and he also died on Halloween. And I was like, the only people that are left are like Will Wheaton and Kiefer Sutherland. And then a few days later, Will Wheaton was on The Big Bang Theory, and he hadn't been on an episode for like over a year. And then, like, I don't know what it was, a week later, we got the Sutherland Springs church shooting, and then Will Wheaton was in the news for saying that people prayed and they still died and it didn't do any good or whatever. And that was like a headline story. So it was like Will Wheaton and Kiefer Sutherland, and then the Sutherland Springs church shooting. It was all related, but I thought that Wendy Williams was important because I have this song called Horny Bear, and one of the lyrics is about how Wendy Williams looks like a horse. And I was like, it's got to be something to Wendy Williams, right? And of course, this was, when did I write this blog post? At 3:18 in the morning on 2/22/22. And now, today, later in the day, we got this story about the Wendy Williams show. And look at this. The Wendy Williams show, headline on CNN, is ending. So the Wendy Williams show is coming to an end. Just so I blog about how I think Wendy Williams is important to the horse theme. Hours before there's a story of Wendy Williams and her show ending. It's like, come on. And this happens to me all the time. I don't even understand it. Just following synchronicities. Of course, today is 219 days after Wendy Williams' birthday, and Wendy Williams was born on the same day as Nelson Mandela, which is also the same day that Donald Trump had his national convention in Cleveland, and he walked out with the song "We Are the Champions" that's linked up to the Mandela effect, and so on. And the Mandela effect that's linked up to the horse racing theme that I talked about in the previous video. So, the odds she's born on that day. But there's definitely something important to France with this all, because I've been talking about France all year. France is, right now we're in the 229th anniversary of the French Republic that began on 22/9. And the president's birthday is 2 months and 29 days after 229, or 22/9. And France, and the Francis Bacon gematria equals 229. And the whole stuff with the Mandela effect had a lot to do with the number 516, such as Nelson Mandela was the president for 5 years, 1 month, and 6 days. And that's interesting because if you look up the date, May 16th, that's the day that leaves 229 days in the year even. But recall last year we got that story about how France was sending us the little sister of the Statue of Liberty, and then they dedicated it on July 14th, which was the anniversary of Bastille Day in France, right? Bastille Day. And that's interesting because this year's the year of the tiger. Something I've been following a whole lot is Sylvester Stallone in the film Rocky that involves Hulk Hogan, right? And he's going to be 76 years old on the date 7/6, and the word tiger equals 76. And think about Rocky and Eye of the Tiger, and Eye of the Tiger equals 76, and a whole lot more. But back in 2015, we had this Nice, France van attack. Now it says truck attack, but it was totally a van attack back in the day. But that happened on Bastille Day, and when they showed pictures of it, they showed Sylvester Stallone was there, and they had this picture of him. I wish my computer would load these pictures, but make them bigger, but he kind of looked like the Statue of Liberty. And I pointed that out a long time ago. I was like, looks like the Statue of Liberty, And then when Wendy Williams collapsed on stage dressed as the Statue of Liberty, I thought there was something important to how it linked up to this. And, there was a bunch of gematria with it, but then we get this other one, Bastille Day, right? So this was on Bastille Day. This was on Bastille Day. And when you look up the Wendy Williams show, it just so happened to first air on Bastille Day in 2008. So it's like, there's definitely something important to France and how it links up, And Nice, France equals 222 in the English extended cipher. They're replacing the Wendy Williams show with a show called Sherry with Sherry Shepherd. And her birthday's 4/22. If you go from 2/22 to Bastille Day, it's 4 months and 22 days. If you go from Sherry Shepherd's birthday to 7/14 or Bastille Day, it's 2 months, 22 days. And her name equals 218, like Paris, France, like Bastille Day. So I don't know. Will Wheaton was born on International Tiger Day. Jerry O'Connell born in a tiger year. Think about Stand By Me. The guy who wrote it was Ben E. King. And he was also born in a tiger year, and he died at the age of 76. And Stephen King, right? That's who the film is from, right? The Body or whatever by Stephen King. His birthday's 21/9. So I feel like there's something important to the film Stand By Me yet again. And that was all linked up to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Because that was all about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and Donald Trump calling out the kneeling on 23/9. The 50-second prime number. Think about, Stand By Me, kneeling, right? The statue that's standing. There's some interesting narrative with that. Some people even say this is actually Apollo. Apollo equals 201 in Jewish gematria, just like the word tiger equals 201 in Jewish gematria. So there's all kinds of interesting things here. Joe Biden, he just gave the speech about Ukraine and whatever, about the sanctions on Russia, and he did it at 2:22. If it will load. He did it at 2:22 p.m. on 2/22/22. It's not going to load. My computer's going really slow. But maybe I can zoom in here. 2:22, there we go. But there is something so interesting to the stock market crash. Like Herbert Hoover's birthday is the 222nd day of the year. And the stock market crash happened 2 months and 19 days after his birthday. And then Kamala Harris was born on the exact same day that Herbert Hoover died. And 219 is linked up to Squid Game and this money water theme. It's linked up to Joe Biden and Pope Francis and Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris equals 222. The Ukraine equals 222, which is interesting because, you know, that's what it was referred to back in the Soviet Union and whatever, because it wasn't considered a real nation, right? So they called it the Ukraine instead of just Ukraine. So it kind of makes sense to write that in here with what Russia's trying to do right now, according to the news and so on, you know. But we'll leave it at that. There's, like I said, it's definitely something linked up. I'm going to make one more video before I go to bed tonight, but it's definitely, there's something important to how Kamala Harris is all linked up to it. I'm telling you. Because even like Donald Trump's website, his Truth Social just launched. And remember, it actually was established, or it first came out on Kamala Harris's birthday. And Donald Trump also was the president during that Super Bowl 52 that was linked up to the stock market stuff. You know, the U.S. Bank Stadium was where it was held. It was held in Minnesota. Minnesota equals 219 in the Francis Bacon gematria. So I'll leave it at that. I'll make this other video. Just wanted to prove there's some horse theme going on. And now it's linked up to this Cameroon theme. You know, and once again, Neptune is the god of the sea, the god of earthquakes, and the god of horses. And I think that is why it is important. There's something I'm supposed to learn with Neptune that I don't completely understand yet. You know, if I knew more about Neptune and what it represented, you know, so I have to keep studying and who knows. But have a good one. Peace.